Hi everyone, I'm here today as a member of the Technique Junkies design team to show you how we can use this awesome stamp called Forest Floor to create some quick cards. Now you may think that this stamp looks like it would take a long time to color, but you can do things with these types of stamps that allow you to get a lot of color with a little bit of time. Just quickly is what I'm trying to say. So I have here some very cheap markers, water-based markers from Amazon. They're called Dual Art, and I'm coloring my stamp. So instead of stamping my stamp with ink, I'm coloring it. And I'm using my picture that came with my stamp, the packaging, as my guide, and this helps me to know where then to put the colors and what colors I might want to select and when it's time to change to a different color marker. So you want to have this, actually the line art that comes with the packaging handy and use that as your guide so that you know what to color. I'm taking my time and I'm coloring it in. You'll see later when I do the watercolor effect, I'm just laying as much color down as quickly as I can. Um, because when you have all of this ink on this stamp, you can spray it then with water and get a second print from this process. So that's super cool. So a little bit about these stamps. This stamp is part of the August 2021 Technique Junkies new release. If you are interested in this stamp, you can get it for 15% off. But the deadline for that is August the 8th, and that is tomorrow. At the time of this video, it's basically, the next day. So I would definitely encourage you to consider getting this one. It's got a lot of different uses. I'll tell you a little bit about some of my ideas of how you can use it and get it by the 8th so that you can save 15%. And if there are other items that you see in my video today, I'm using some sentiments from previous releases and that you're interested in some of those, you can get those for 10% off if you use my code TJ10Tracy. This will all be in the description box below, so if you're not sure, you can always go back and check that description box. So this is coming together quite nicely. You can see how vibrant it looks. It's definitely a nice, bright type of image. Now here we're going to do what I called the watercolor, a faux watercolor really. So now I'm going back in with the marker and I'm going over those areas that I've already colored, and this doesn't do any damage to your stamp. This just wipes right off, but you want to use a dye ink or a water-based marker. You don't want to use alcohol inks. You want to use a water-based. So having a brush tip is also helpful when you're doing this technique. It's just, I find it easier than a bullet tip to get the right amount of coloring in the right little nooks and crannies. So I'm really pleased with how this looks. And really all I did was refreshed a couple spots, added ink again where I had already inked for my previous panel. This is watercolor cardstock that I'm coloring on, or yeah, with my markers. And then I sprayed the actual stamp to get it moist. And then I was able to get that second print. So if you're doing this technique with your markers, you might as well go ahead and get that second print. And that's a quick way to do that. Another quick way to color this in, if you're not a colorer, you can use Distress Oxides. And so I just grabbed sort of a rainbow palette of Distress Oxides, and I'm using that to stamp the stamp or ink the stamp, and then I sprayed a little bit of water on it again to give it that watercolor effect. Now, for the two panels that I used water on, they curled on me, so I'm going to run them through my mini mink to straighten them. If you ever work with watercolor paper and the paper curls, on the end you can send your paper through your maybe a laminator if you don't have a mink machine. I'm using just a piece of regular copy paper to run it through. So yeah, that's one nice little trick for getting your panels flat again. Okay, now that I have my panels flat, I'll go ahead and show you what I do is when I stamp sentiments, I stamp extra, and then I'll just pull them out of my little pouch here and try to pick some sentiments to go along with the stamps. These are all Technique Junkies sentiments, and the ones that I end using, I will put in the description box below. Okay, but before I do put my sentiments on, I'm going to just take an alcohol marker and color the background on this stamped panel. This is the Distress Oxide panel, and it's very vibrant, very colorful. And I want to color the background and give it a blue sky background. So I'm just using some alcohol ink markers to do that. So I do a bit of coloring in this video. I'm going to use colored pencils on this panel. This is the one that I stamped or inked with Distress Oxides. I'm just going to color these images in with some colored pencil, and it's very quick. It's not something that I spend a lot of time on. I'm just trying to get some color down because there's just something about this Distress Oxide panel. It's very bright and vibrant, and I just didn't want the images to not be colored in. And so one way that you can do this is just grab your colored pencils and just color right over what you stamped. It's not going to change your stamped image. It's not going to mess with the ink in any way. And it just gives it some nice, you know, coloring. Very quick. I'm not even using Gamsol or anything to blend. I just want to get it colored in so that it has that saturated feeling to it. Okay, skipping forward, this is what it looks like after I have it colored in with my colored pencils. Now we'll go ahead and work on the last step, which is putting our sentiments onto our card front panels. I finished this one. I used my decal trimmer to trim it, and I used the Get Well Soon from Technique Junkies. I'm going to show you here how I normally mount my sentiments. Normally I'll have my sentiment and I have it on white cardstock. I'll ink blend with Catherine Polar inks the little sentiment panel to whatever color I want. And in this one I used yellow. And then I take a matte layer, and in this case I used a green as a matte layer. And then I just glue, after I put the sentiment on top of the mat, which is just foam tape, I just I just tape it to my panel and then tape my panel to my card base. That's a nice brightly colored one. This one is a very tiny sentiment. It says Hope. I'm going to use Sparkling Berry, which is a new color from Catherine Puller. I'm going to ink blend it. I'm not totally saturating it. I'm leaving a little bit of light color, a little bit of dark. It's kind of ombre. It's just basically a little bit of ink blending. So it's not stark white. I have a piece of glitter cardstock and I cut it out with a fancy die. And now I have the word hope mounted on that. And this is the original panel right here. This is the one that I colored with markers. I cut it out with a fancy die. It's got nice frillies around it. I'm going to mount that one on some hot pink paper. So we've got 3 really cool cards, I think. All of them using the same stamp with slightly different variations on the technique. And in the end, we have 3 beautiful cards. If you're new to my channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe. Please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below which one is your favorite. And don't forget to check out all of the new stamps as part of the new release for Technique Junkies. And don't forget, in my description box below, I'll have my code that you can use to save 10% on your order. Don't forget that the new stamps are on sale for 15% off now through the 8th of August. And then anything else in your cart, you can use my coupon code and save 10% off. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a hopeful day. Bye-bye.